now. Okay, so customer centricity program. As I said, we work on customer experience management, data analytics, and metrics. Those things are kind of inextricably connected at this point. It's a little bit misleading, the title of our customer centricity program, because when we talk about big data analytics and metrics, we're not only talking about them in the context of customer experience management and tmforum. I'd love to have some other top-level name that is like customer experience and analytics and metrics all together, but this is the name that I've been given by corporate marketing, so this is what I got. But just so you guys understand that, you know, when we talk about analytics, we're talking about a lot more than just the customer side of things. We're also talking about network analytics, and one of you guys mentioned risk analytics. That would fit in there. In fact, we've been having a discussion about margin assurance analytics and metrics in the last couple of weeks. So anyway, bear all that in mind as we get into going through all of these topics. Okay, we have a lot of people that are our leaders. I think Antonio is actually on the call, one of our leaders. I'm not going to go over who exactly all of these people are. As you get involved, you will get to know all these guys as you join calls. They run our calls every week. This is me, and below me here is Snigdha. She actually is the person who works the magic. You know, when you join one of our projects, you have to get approval for IPR through your company. Then you have to get into our Confluence workspace and all of that. Snigdha helps you through all of that, and then she's on almost all of the calls, running them, knows where everything is on Confluence, all of that. So she is a huge go-to person for this entire program. A lot of the slides I have going forward through this presentation, you'll see these people's names so that you can start to associate names and projects. And I'm happy to share all these slides and contact information as well. So any of these leaders are happy to hear from you to talk deeper about what's going on the projects. Okay, a lot of friendly faces here. We're a very friendly group, always welcoming new people, looking for new people, and very open group, right? We talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about. If somebody brings something to the table, everybody else views that as valuable to discuss. Definitely have created that kind of a culture within our program. Okay, so I'm going to whip through what's in the customer centricity program and then dive into what we're working on now and what does it mean to get involved and why and how through this agenda. And you know, the place I like to start is to say that we really are developing in tmforum a common language, whether that's a business level common language about how do you do customer journeys or what should you be measuring, or it's a very technical common language about APIs and how do you share information across systems. That's really in tmforum our focus is creating families of common languages. That's what we do in our customer experience program, right? And I'll go through what a lot of these are, but just keep that in mind as I'm walking through all of the different best practices that we've got. And also keep in mind that everything I'm mentioning, all of these best practices, whether the ones I talk about or they're ones that I'll just refer to, you know, like our business process framework, ETOM and whatnot, you can go onto our website and download everything I'm talking about as a member of tmforum, okay? All you have to do is be logged into the website and you can download away. Okay, how do we develop our best practices that are creating our common languages? We do that through collaboration. Everything we do in tmforum is conceived of and staffed by our members. So a lot of times it'll be our service provider members that will come and say, here's our top challenges that we're facing, here's the problems that we are dealing with. I'd like to bring this to the table, and then we'll do one of our collaborative styles of projects, of which we have two, and I'll get to that in a minute. But a lot of other times it's a systems integrator or a software supplier that has really identified a problem space in the industry, and they bring that to the table, and then we bring everybody around the table to talk about it. So anybody can bring a challenge to the table. It's really valuable when service providers bring their real-world challenges to the table, and I know we have several on the call today. So your input is very inspiring and also validating to the work that we're doing. So that is a really important part of it. So how would I describe collaboration? These words on the left is kind of what I came up with. A unique virtual and physical meeting place for curious minds to share ideas and define solutions. So there's a couple points there. The sharing one is really important, right? You get to talk to other people that are thinking about the same thing, see what they're bringing to the table. But yeah, and the curious minds, I think, is a really important piece too, right? If you like to explore, you like to think about new things. And then, you know, it's the kind of thing where some people love to do this. They come every week, they come to calls, you get to know everybody that's on the calls, you get a group of people that you're having a regular conversation with. Some people do that a couple times and then they say, nah, I think I'll just track it online, right? We do this in a way where you can participate at whatever level makes sense to you, right? You saw those faces of people that are leaders. They join every week, they run calls. You know, they kind of epitomize this curious minds who want to share ideas and define solutions. And I'd say it's as much kind of a personality and personal interest thing as anything. A lot of people find it personally rewarding to be involved in these groups, and if you find yourself to be one of those people, well, jump all the way in. And other people just want to be observers or maybe comment now and again, and we take all comers, okay? We are driven by real-world challenges. Like I was just saying, we create our common languages in the forms of guidebooks, best practices, reference models, architectures, all kinds of things. And the point that I am really making these days is the things that we really want to focus on are tackling the hard challenges together. The basic stuff, we get that, right? You don't need, you know, we have great resources for that and you can just download them and use them. But the things you want to talk about are the hard challenges. So as we go into an ecosystem type of an age where nobody's controlling a service end-to-end anymore, or you've got lots of new smart devices that are parts of services, or you're moving into a virtual type of environment, those are the challenges that we really want to be working through together, where no one company or one person really has the whole answer. Sorry, I just had to clear that frog out of my throat. So anyway, that's kind of the very top level story in terms of, you know, what collaboration is about. Let me just take a deep breath. Is everybody okay so far? Any questions? Okay, so the process, you know, we do our collaboration multiple ways. We do a lot of things online. We do some things over conference calls just like this that are led by all those friendly faces that you saw. We do some things in person, whether it's twice a year we have a whole week, and sometimes we'll just have a day or two here and there. That might be more regional and very topic specific. For example, I'm going to a couple of days in London next week to talk about IoT with about 30 members, and one of the focuses is going to be data analytics. So, you know, that, like, we will bring the IoT thread to the table at these action days, or sorry, data analytics thread to the IoT table at these action days. That's a good example of what an action day would be like. Sammy's asking me, do I participate in CXPA? You know, I personally have been a member of CXPA, so I know a lot about it, and we have somebody that I've gotten to know really well through tmforum from AT&T named Diane Majors. She's one of the board members at CXPA, so we're definitely connected to them. If anybody who doesn't know what it is, it's Customer Experience Professionals Association, and they also kind of talk about best practices and things. I think probably the biggest difference is that we focus primarily on the communications industry. So anyway, but I do like CXPA. For anybody who has not plugged into that, I highly recommend it. Sammy, do you want to make a comment on that?
No, you touched on the points I would have mentioned. It's from my perspective, it's an association. So, you know, like me asking you whether you participate in is kind of weird because it's an association participating in another association. But it's a group of like-minded people, and that's what I like about it. Mm-hmm.
I like it too. I definitely do. Lots of resources. People are very good at sharing in that CXPA group. Okay. Anyway, so we have all of these different ways we collaborate, and again, I'll reiterate, commitment is at a level that works for you and your company. What tmforum does is we provide the environment for collaboration. We facilitate the conversations between myself and SNGDA and the project leaders that we've worked with and appointed. We work to get to consensus so that we can publish things, and hopefully we publish them in an easy-to-use way. That's where I work with Ailish a lot. How do we publish our documents and package them, or should they not be a document, maybe some kind of a tool or a spreadsheet? So we work on those things. And then we have our project managers that drive all of this from end to end, and in this case, this is SNGDA is running all of this orange arrow across here. So we have two kinds of projects in tmforum for collaboration. The orange one here, our collaboration projects, are really about creating our best practices and standards, the common language documents and tools and whatnot that I've been talking about. We publish those 2 times per year, and we run those through working groups that are open to all members, and it's part of your membership. So all your companies are members. You can join as many working groups as you want. The other kind of projects, and by the way, that's mostly what I'm going to focus on today. That's why it's circled. The other kinds of projects are called catalyst projects. Those are short-term proof of concept projects that result in demonstrations. And we demonstrate those 2 times a year. Actually, I think this year is going to now be 3 times. At our events that we run in, it's typically been Europe, which is coming up soon, and North America, but we're adding Asia this fall as well. The teams are put together with user champions, so a lot of times that's service providers, but as we're increasingly doing IoT and SmartX kind of projects, they're not necessarily service providers anymore, and then team up with solution providers to take a concept like, how do we do omnichannel machine learning, right? That one came up earlier on the call. How do we optimize defining what channels our customers should be using? Well, let's do it through machine learning. So now there's an exploratory project to look into that concept where we will come up with a demo that will be shown in Nice in the beginning of May. The difference on this one is it's very intense, and there's a commercial aspect to it both ways. You pay to participate, but then you are in the expo at our event in the tmforum zone, grouped with other Catalyst projects. There's a marketing program that goes with it. So there's a big commercial aspect to participating in the Catalyst projects, and in the collaboration projects, not at all. It's just about collaboration, sharing ideas. There's lots of benefits, lots of credit that you get for participating in these orange kind of projects, but it doesn't have the same sort of intensity of commercial exposure that you get through the Catalyst program. Okay, any questions on that before I proceed? By the way, on the Catalyst projects, actually let me back up to that. These go on pretty much all the time. The Catalysts run in cycles. We're just towards the end of one cycle, and we're just about to kick off another. So if this is an idea that you're interested in doing these demo projects, be looking for an email in the next couple of weeks to kick this off. And you'll probably be hearing from me, especially if you're a service provider, because I'm going to be polling on what your biggest challenges are to feed this Catalyst program. Okay, so that's just a little warning. All right, I've already talked about this: customer experience, management, big data analytics, and metrics. 3 themes that are just large industry themes right now that we make sure we try and keep our eye on, right, through everything we do. Using customer experience as a differentiator, propelling business success with analytics. Again, that's across the whole enterprise, not just the customer experience perspective. And then also thinking about what is happening to customers as everything is getting connected, so many devices, and at the same time, things are becoming software-driven, virtual. Like, what's happening to the customer experience with all of those moving parts and changes that are happening. Okay, and then, I talked about challenges a minute ago. These are the kinds of challenges that, where we talk about when we've had some of our action days and whatnot. I've just grouped some things together and summarized them, right? How do I create an Amazon, Uber, Apple type of experience in a B2B to X and virtual environment? How do I know if my CEM program is working? I know I should be using analytics more broadly, but how do I do it faster and better? I want to create a metrics or a data-driven culture, or you could say CEM, a customer-centric culture in there as well. How do I do that? We are starting to talk a lot about Smart City in tmforum, and the number one thing on our Smart City Groups list is how to be more citizen-centric. So it seems like that would be a good meeting of the minds with the smart cities and the CEM groups. So these are just interesting topics that we are talking about. That list, there's many more, and these are the kind of things I want to feed into that Catalyst program and also into our collaboration program. Okay, you know, a lot of times companies will ask us, so if I collaborate, you know, am I going to be sharing my secrets? And the answer to that is always no. We don't want your secrets. We want to work on the things that are kind of the big hairy problems that we all have, and collaborating together will help everybody, but it won't be, you know, changing anybody's business to the point where you're giving away your differentiators, you're giving away things related to your brand or your biggest innovations or your highest level strategies. We don't want that, right? We want to talk about the things, well, okay, customer journeys are getting a lot more complicated. Maybe we need a new model for mapping them. And that's one that we've actually done already. So things like that is what we want to talk about. You know, how do you truly get to a 360-degree view of the customer when you've got a lot of partners involved in the relationships? How do we handle the privacy and security governance kind of things around data in this environment of massive amounts of data and not a lot of privacy? So things like that are what we want to talk about. Okay, does anybody have any questions on that? All right, and then in our collaboration projects, this is what our kind of one cycle might look like. We started in December where we released our last version, Frameworks 15.5. The numbers go with the year. So we do 15 and 15.5. We're in 2015, and now we're working on 16. So we released in December. Then we have about a 4 or 5 month cycle where we work together and collaborate, you know, doing online stuff and calls and action days and action week. We had our action week was in February for this cycle, and then we'll release in June. So we finish in May, and then there's like a packaging, you know, marketing kind of month, and we release in June. And then we start again right away. Like as soon as we're done in May, we start trying to figure out what we're going to do next time. We'll have another one of these action weeks in Vancouver in July, and we'll release at the end of the year. So that's kind of what the cycle looks like. Now, we don't necessarily either hold everything for a canned release twice a year. If a member develops something really interesting and exciting, we'll publish it right in the middle of the cycle. But just in terms of making sure anything that we're keeping in sync and all of that, we make sure we've always got 2 dates a year to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the programs. Really, you know, there's a ton of material. There's no way I can cover all of it, but basically, like I said, you can always go to our website, and if you go to just our regular website, this standards and adoption, this resource library menu right here, you see that Frameworks 15.5, that's the latest release. You can always click on more customer-centric or data analytics. Also, once you go into the full resources library, you can search and sort and filter on anything you want. So this standards and adoption menu and the resource library column is your resource or your source to find all these things. So I just clicked on the full resource library, right? But we could filter on customer experience management, for example, down here in the tag cloud. Anyway, so just so you know where to find everything I'm about to talk about. So this is a little snapshot of everything we've got in our resource library for customer experience management. We have a general guidebook. We have a ROI calculator. We have a maturity model. We have a life cycle model, plus a lot of work going on around 360-degree view of the customer related to topics like sentiment. I'll get to that in a minute. We have a lot of metrics around customer experience management, sort of a metrics dictionary. We have an omnichannel best practice, and we have a use case library. So this is what we have today. Just about everything on here is iterating. So as we just start to jump into that, in the use case library, we've got 33 CEM use cases in place right now. I know this is fine print, but I'm going to send this out so that you can see them. And this is a great example of common language, right? It's a way to look through a set of use cases and say, hey, we didn't think of this. You know, if you're a less sophisticated CEM organization, this is a gold mine. If you're more sophisticated, well then come and contribute and tell us where you think we've got gaps. So it works for everybody, hopefully that way. And we just got a big contribution from a member of about 12 or 15 new use cases. So this whole thing is going to get a big update basically as soon as they're ready, which they're pretty close to being ready. So that's really exciting. Also in this same category, right, this guidebook at the top is getting revamped. It hasn't been revamped in a couple of years, and boy, this industry's moving fast. So there's a few people are working on revamping this guidebook. And then we're also starting to look at a new idea of an implementation guide. How do you take all of these pieces that we've got in place and put them together to say, here's how you can use all these resources to really help you get going in your company. So this is sort of our wrapper teams, right? The business-focused wrapper type of activities that are going on. And Antonio, if you're still on the call, that's who leads this, is Antonio.
Yes.
Next, okay. Thanks, Antonio. Next thing we've got is our ROI calculator. This is very interesting. It's an interesting approach in that trying to calculate ROI for customer experience management is like trying to boil the ocean, right? It's not going to happen very well anyway. So what we've done is broken it down into looking at how you can understand ROI in terms of moving one particular metric, right? So far we've got 4 things that we're looking at. If you move this metric, this would be your ROI. So the propensity to call, right? And I think we're going to change this to propensity to contact, right? How often are people getting in contact with you? How much is it costing you? Where do you want to reduce your contacts, and what would the business case look like for doing that? So it's very interesting. We have a spreadsheet, a calculator that's got models for these 4 areas. If this is something you're working on, we'd love your contribution into this. It's basically a spreadsheet. Add another tab and put your model in there, and it's in. CEM metrics. So I mentioned that we have a lot of metrics in CEM. They cover the entire customer experience lifecycle, this is our older model. Actually, we've created a new model now, so we're going to need to update the model in our metrics document. But, looking at, basically it's a dictionary of 27 cells, right? 9 columns and 3 rows. 9 stages of the life cycle, 3 families of metrics, whether it's per customer, we have specialized per enterprise customer metrics, and then we have functional metrics. And so if you go through the document, it's actually very well thought out, and it's actually way more than 572 metrics, because any one of the metrics, it might say, okay, there's a metric for this propensity to call or propensity to contact, but then you might break it down by channel, you might break it down by geography, you might break it down by type of service. So once you do that, actually every metric is a bunch of metrics. So it's sort of an unlimited number of metrics, and obviously nobody will ever use all of those metrics at the same time, but it's a dictionary. So use it as a resource, right? Before you think about doing customer experience metrics in your company, go here and use these metrics as a way to get your thinking started. Okay, omnichannel best practice. This has got a bunch of things going on. We've got 4 different topics that we're covering in the introductory guide right now, and then we have got a lot of planned topics that are rolling along. The biggest one, and actually I wish I had changed this word to say from reference architecture to reference model, because we're going to do a sort of a business-focused reference model that if you're thinking about omnichannel, there's many functionalities that you need to think about. And so we're going to combine this functional capabilities area into a reference model and hopefully get that finished in the next month or so. We've been talking about it for a while. It's a pretty interesting conversation if that's something that floats your boat. We're also working on metrics to add those into the metrics dictionary, and we have a maturity model. We've got a couple of people that are looking at turning that into more of a tool than just a static model. So lots going on in the omnichannel area. The experience lifecycle model, this was one of the things I alluded to earlier, where we've had a lifecycle model that you could use for doing journey mapping for a long time, but we said, it's getting more complicated and it has to be analytics driven and all of this as we go into a more ecosystem centric, less just purely telecom centric or or mobile network-centric kind of world. So we've generalized the language. The 3 phases, top-level phases are called engaging, using, and evaluating. This middle stage hasn't changed that much. And then, anyway, you see we've got kind of this layered model. And then we've added a couple of concepts. This experience events, basically this is a very granular look at anything that could happen during the customer journey. And then this level at the top is how do you pull data and information around the experience events and turn that into insights and knowledge. And that's the analytics piece. So that's basically looking like this, grabbing everything you know about the customer's experience, bringing that up into an analytics engine and creating insights and facts out of it. So this is the new world, right? Or it's not even that new anymore, but this is the world. And so we're making sure that we're building that thinking right into this model from the beginning. So again, example of a common language, right? If you're going to do any journey mapping in your company, you don't already have a model for it, don't start with a blank sheet of paper. Or if you have been doing journey mapping and you find some things that you think don't make sense on this diagram, well, we would love to hear about it. Okay. And then there's another piece of this project. This all kind of started under a big umbrella of 360 view of the customer. There's quite a few of other interesting topics outside of this experience lifecycle model. There's a lot of discussion about customer sentiment and really what's the best way to get insights around customer sentiment and build it into understanding the 360 view of the customer. I'll come back to Experience Integrator in a minute. And we're also talking about if you do understand the customer sentiment, what are the other kinds of ways that you should be scoring that and understanding that? So we're looking at sort of beyond NPS and beyond customer effort score to say what other kinds of assessments should we have, so you're really capturing a much more granular view of customer sentiment. Like maybe you need some kind of privacy score, or maybe you need a personalization score. Not exactly sure how you would ask the customer if something felt like a personalized experience, but wouldn't it be nice to know that if the customer felt like they had a personalized experience? So those are the kinds of things that we're talking about, kind of beyond the type of experience scores from the customer's perspective that we have today. So sentiment and that experience scores are linking. And then this experience integrator concept, this came up because we are looking at a lot of really complex business models and business scenarios as you go into things like e-health and connected cars and things like that. Well, I kind of brought to some of those groups, or our customer experience group brought to some of those groups that are working on those connected X type of projects and said, have you thought about how this is going to affect the customer? And a lot of times the answer is no. And so we said, okay, well, what you really need is to create a single point of experience for the customer in all these complicated environments, and there's a role for somebody to be what we're calling an experience integrator, to really think about the customer's experience end-to-end and integrate all of the touch points in a complex ecosystem so that the customer has a consistent and unified and seamless experience. So we're working on what that all means and what kind of best practices we would want to capture around this, creating a seamless experience in an ecosystem environment through this role called an experience integrator. Interesting topics, right? Lots of food for thought on all of these, I think. Any comments, questions? How am I doing on time? Okay, I got to keep moving if there are no questions. Okay. We also do a lot with business process in tmforum. We are creating a library of CEM processes to put into our ETOM business process framework. We're working on maturity level processes. We're working on journey mapping processes. We're working on a number of things, metrics analysis processes, etc. If processes are something that are interesting to you, definitely let us know. I know processes are not for everybody, but for people who are into processes, this is the place to be. And you'll work with kind of a small team, but a focused team on creating the processes. Okay, that's the end of CEM. I'm going to transition into data analytics, and I'm going to start with the processes again. Exactly the same conversation I just had about the CEM processes. If you're using ETOM, you might look at it and say, oh, I wish there were more processes on data analytics as part of ETOM. Well, that's what we're doing. We had a number of contributions in 2015 in this area. We're doing a number of more processes. And we're kind of looking at it from two approaches, bottom up, like what are the detailed areas that need to be updated about related to processes, but we're also doing a top-down approach to say, if we're looking at, and I think I'm missing a slide, I don't seem to have the top-down slide, but all of the things like data governance and data management and all of that that really need to be done for no matter what kind of analytics you're doing, we're getting those processes put into the ETOM as well. So processes, again, really important. If you're interested, please let me know. All right, this is the library, or kind of the one-pager for what we've got in data analytics. Again, you can go to that resource library and download all of these things. We've got a reference model. We've got another library of use cases. We've got something called building blocks, which are implementation chunks for use cases. See, I've got conflicting numbers on here. Sorry, we've got over 70. I need a new graphic apparently here. We've got a maturity model. We've got a concept called the Analytics Big Data Repository, which is about doing a tuned repository for big data analytics that focuses on not duplicating your data all over the place. And, you know, many copies of CDRs, for example, just because every application needs CDRs. And then we have this best practice around external data monetization, right? Data is valuable. How do you turn that into a business? So that's what we've got today. Oh, my slides are just in the wrong order. Here's the top-down slide for the big data analytics. I think we've gotten the idea of this. Okay, so I showed you what we have in the library. What are we working on? We're really focusing on how. We really need to get to the point where we are helping people accelerate through their data analytics challenges. So we have a lot of tools for that. We have the maturity assessment. We've got some research that people can use. We've got the use cases. We've got the building blocks. We've got the repository approach. So we're really helping with how to put all this together. And now, like I was just on a call right before this, where we're doing a big how push, right? Creating step-by-step, pull from here, and this is all the pieces you would need to implement a use case. So that's one thing we're focusing on. The maturity model had a really good update last time, but again, we're looking at turning that into more of a tool than just a static model. So we've got new levels that were released last time, from ad hoc to tactical to competitive to differentiating to innovative leader. And then we've got, I think it's about 11 dimensions now in the model, where you can do a self-assessment, or tmforum can come in and do an independent third-party assessment, or if you're a supplier, you can take this to your customers and say, where do you think your strengths and weaknesses are? So it's a common language for conversation about data analytics and what your status is with data analytics in a service provider company, or like I said, as a supplier talking with your customers or potential customers. Again, a lot of use cases. I had fine print on the CEM use case slide. I've got fine print on the data analytics use case slide. The interesting thing on this, and I don't know if anybody has seen this in the market, but we've heard from a few people that this is showing up as in RFPs. And service providers are using this to say, okay, analytics suppliers, tell me what you can do in tmforum language. So great example of common language at work, right? This has got to speed up the process of asking vendors what they can do. And it's great to hear stories like that. If anybody's got one, I'd love to hear it. Okay, and what's next in that big chunk of work? More use cases. We're always building out this library, but we really want to be focusing on the virtualization area and the IoT area. Yes, we will always iterate on the regular communication service provider type of use cases, but I think these are probably the future is the exciting stuff to think about. We're actually looking at AT&T's eComp document. If anybody has not seen that, I highly recommend it. It pretty much published a big white paper that says what they're going to do with SDN and NFV, and that it's all going to be open source, and there's a whole section on analytics in there. If you haven't seen it, Chapter 9, highly recommend finding that. ECOMP is the document. So we're going to be harvesting use cases out of there for NFV and SDN. Like I said, I'm going to a 2-day workshop next week where we're going to start working on the IoT side of things. Building blocks, we have a library of building blocks to help for implementing use cases. We're just working on filling in the gaps in that library. We're just getting started on that. Business value roadmap, again, this how concept that I was just talking about is in full swing, and then the maturity model, creating a tool. So that's a summary of that kind of big chunk of work in the data analytics area. I think Avi had brought up about machine learning. You know, it could fit probably top to bottom in all of this, right? Use cases that would include machine learning, building blocks for adding machine learning into your implementations, how to with machine learning, getting to using machine learning and AI as part of the maturity model. If we could weave a thread all the way through all of this with machine learning, for example. Okay, and it's something we haven't done yet, so it would be really valuable.
Happy to collaborate, Rebecca. We can get started whenever the project gets kicked off.
Yep, so maybe we let this catalyst finish because they're going to do a proof of concept, and we'll start it in the next round. We'll do a whole thread of machine learning into everything we're doing. That would be really, really valuable. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So another document I mentioned earlier is the data monetization. This is a very interesting topic, right? How do you monetize your data? And we have top level kind of views that we've put together on this. We've got and we also have a Catalyst project this time where they're really looking at how do you take some kind of a model like this and make it open, make it flexible, make it scalable, right? If you just sell your data once, you're not going to make a lot of money. You have to sell it thousands or millions of times. So very interesting conversation. If this is an area that anybody's interested in, our leader left, and we have an open slot here. So I'd be keen on talking to anybody that's interested in this topic. Okay, that's the end of analytics. Metrics. The main thing that we do in the metrics project is create a repository. We're basically the harvesters in the metrics project because everybody's talking about metrics. So we go out and talk with our own tmforum projects. We get contributions from members. Like this guy, he wrote a book. It had 691 metrics in it. He contributed those to our metrics repository. We also are working with other industry groups. We're working with QuestForum and Etsy around NFV metrics. So we go harvest metrics and capture them into repository where we've got consistent definitions and we try and publish them in a common language, right? So the terminology is the same. Because that doesn't happen easily, we've got a maturity process that the metrics go through. They can come in completely unchecked and be maturity level 1, and then as we make them more consistent, they get more and more mature. We move them up the ladder to a 3 or a 4, and a very few metrics are a 5, which means they've been benchmarked. Okay, and this is just a point to say we've added 769 metrics just in the second half of the year through a big contribution and then a bunch of little contributions. So that's pretty exciting. And then, like I said, we just put them into a spreadsheet. You can download this one document, GB988, if you want to search on it in the library. And you see these are all new metrics, so they're all just at this maturity proposed. But if you go in there, you'll see different levels of maturity on the metrics. So if you're a metrics head, we'd love to have you as part of this project, thinking about how to do metrics sort of on a global sense in tmforum and with other SDOs. It's a very good group, very focused and committed group to what they're doing. And so coming up in 2016, we've already got some new metrics that came out of a virtual CPE project. We've already got some metrics coming from another Catalyst demonstration project. I mentioned this earlier around margin assurance. We would love to have your risk analytics metrics put into this repository, Mark. It's sort of anything goes, right? The more metrics, the merrier. We have classifications, etc., for the metrics. So help us build our dictionary. This is a good example of crowdsourcing within tmforum. And okay, so I think this just says what I just said, right? Participate. You can be part of this team that does this harvesting and does the working kind of outreach with the other groups to capture their metrics and standardize their metrics. If you have a special interest in any area, we call those, God, what do they call them? ICS is the abbreviation, but you can come in and just be sort of a little mini project within metrics and get your metrics added into the repository. That's how lots of teams are working, or lots of individuals are working with this project now. So it's an accelerating area, I tell you that. People are very interested in pulling all the metrics into one place. Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to very quickly just run through some logistical kind of things. So why participate, right? I think I've talked about most of these things. Let's tackle the big challenges together. We can be influencing the industry. Thanks, Antonio. I saw your comment. Appreciate it. We will be influencing the whole industry by working together and tackling these big challenges. It's really a virtual R&D environment. If you want to come in and kind of expand your thinking, then you can bring this back into your R&D environment. And if you, especially that Catalyst program, the demonstration one, you can really use it as an extended R&D environment. Thought leadership, gaining expertise, those are just osmosis kind of things that you get through working in our groups. And then close working relationships, people really get to know each other in these environments, and they trust each other. So you get to share in a way that maybe you're not sharing in a sales situation. And a lot of people get a lot of value in those relationships. There's also a big personal aspect, and I won't read all of these to you, but there's people that come and they say they get to do things that they don't get to do in their day job, and they find that rewarding. Maybe you're not a leader in your day job, you can be a leader in tmforum, or vice versa. Maybe you are a leader in your day job, but what you really want to do is just dig into a new topic. Personal networking is also important, and people just have good experiences when they come to tmforum events. It's a positive place for meeting people and discussing and whatever. So anyway, think about those personal aspects in addition to all of the company aspects. So how do I join? All your companies are tmforum members. You just have to register on our website. You'll get an IP clearance from your company. I'll show you that in a minute. And then you go into the projects. Look at the calendar, join calls. It's very straightforward. There's definitely some clicking that you have to do and typing in because of getting registered and making sure that you have your intellectual property approved. But all that's already set up. You're just clicking. And then the commitment, if you're just an average participant, you maybe come to a call or two a week. It's maybe an hour or two a week that you're working on things. Maybe you come to a call for an hour and then you work on something for a half hour, an hour. And you don't even have to come every week, right? It's a catch as catch can, do what you can. And then if you want to be a leader, we advertise it as 8 hours per week, but I'm going to say a lot of weeks it's a lot less than that, but then as we're getting ready to publish something, it's more than that. So don't feel like you have to commit a whole day a week to be a leader. Talk to me, but this is the published number in tmforum. But if you're interested in being a leader, talk to me and we'll make something work. You can be a co-leader, for example. We have some open co-leader slots right now. Okay, so projects. This is just all of the web pages, and I'm going to send this to you, so I won't go over it in a ton of detail, but this is where you log in and register. Once you're in, you go to the collaborative R&D menu on the website, and these are the 3 clicks for joining the project. And then once you are into one of the projects, you can click on this link right here that says Confluence. That's the collaborative environment. You can also get directly to Confluence through just projects.tmforum.org. So there's a lot, these are just the web pages. I will send this to everybody so you don't have to memorize it, but it's just a few steps, right? Join the project and then get into Confluence. And then you want to be looking at the work in progress menu wherever you go. And you'll see the 1H, right? First half of 2016 work streams. You can find all the work in progress, the conversations. You can look at meeting notes from the previous meetings and see who attends the meetings. So once you're in Confluence, this is the magic. So I highly recommend that you join the project and look at Confluence, whether or not you think you're going to participate. Just fish around, see what we're doing. Okay, and then the last thing is this edit and watch. Edit, that's how you edit, right? Put your ideas into the page. It's very, it's a wiki, so anybody can edit. And then watch, if it's an area you're interested in, click watch and you'll get notified when changes happen in that section. Okay, and the call schedule, I just put this all into one place so that you'll know when all of our calls are. Nobody joins every call, believe me. You pick the one or two that are interesting to you and you come to those calls. So just take a look at it. Come to a newcomer call if you want, but you don't really need to since we did this call. You can just jump into any call you want to. And that's about it. So now all we need is you, because we're just still missing one genius, right? We want to add you to the picture. All right, I know we're right at the top of the hour, but who's got questions, comments, thoughts? Was that too much? Not enough? Did I overwhelm you?
Hey, thank you, Rebecca. It was very interesting material. A lot of it, so it's going to take a while to digest it. So you're going to send the slides afterwards?
Yep, I'm going to send the slides, and I'll send you a link to the recording if anybody wants that as well, if there's anyone else you want to share with in your companies. And, you know, ask me questions. Come back anytime, right? Don't just think, oh, now I have the information, I have to figure it out. No, we're here to support you between myself and Snigdha. We will get you going. So please feel free to just drop me a note anytime to get going.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions? You're welcome. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. I really appreciate everybody's time, and thank you so much for coming, and I hope to be hearing from lots of you going forward. And send your colleagues next month. We're doing another one next month, so send your colleagues. If you get this email again, just forward it around in your company, okay? All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.